Okay, all right. I see us live. Pros, welcome to Pro Power Hour. If you are here to learn, if you are looking for product training, you're in the right place. This is a product training webinar we do every Thursday at this time. Um, we've been kicking off the new year, kind of repeating some old topics with new updates, and we've talked about how every month we're going to talk about one of our add-ons. We're going to talk about voice today, but we've been doing this thing for a while. So if there's any past sessions or any products or features that you need help with, there's likely a past session that can help you. I'll drop a recording library link for you. Um, but it's been a few weeks since I've been here, but we're going to do voice today. Phil, I'm going to pass it over to you. Phil's one of our onboarding specialists. He's with us almost every week. So, Phil, appreciate you being here. And I know this is something you do often. You talk about voice often with your pros, right?
Yep, yep. So yeah, I'm one of the onboarders for Voice. I actually just this afternoon uh, went through it with one of my pros, so it's something that I do often. I if you've we've had the voice option for quite a while now, but we've made some improvements to it, a couple of additions to it. So some of this you may have seen before, some of this you may be seeing for the first time. But just going to kind of give you all kind of what it looks like when you're going through voice onboarding with myself or one of my teammates, because we kind of hit everything that's involved with it. So we'll talk a little bit, we'll have the slideshow with a little bit of information just so we can kind of round out like what VoIP is and what the phone system is. And then I'll open up my test account and we'll kind of go through the process of setup, testing a call to see what it looks like when a call comes in, and what types of reporting and information and data we can get on the back end. So, without further ado, I'll go on into our slide deck and just point out some of the information we have here. So, we'll start with a little bit of an introduction, talking about voice, what the voice block list. I know that's been around for a while, but we are in 2026, so we're about to hit campaign season here in the States. So that's going to be very useful for a lot of you all. Um, there's also the voice queuing, which is kind of our waiting room. That's kind of a newer addition to something that we've added to the voice system, as well as talking a little bit about voice on mobile. I don't have that really on my account, so I don't really have an opportunity to show what it looks like on mobile, but I do have a video somewhere where I can kind of pull up and just kind of show what it's going to look like from another perspective. And then, as usual, we'll have time for not just my demo, but some questions. So, getting into at least the voice block list, what that's for is, as I mentioned, it's a way that we can block spam calls from coming in. Every VoIP account with House Call Pro is just like any other phone plan where you buy in a certain number of minutes, and there is a little bit that goes into overages as well. We will talk a little bit about pricing as we get a little further into today's session. But just, yeah, want to reiterate the importance of the block list of really being able to block any calls that are going to be eating up our minutes so that that way we can have more minutes for the calls that we actually need. You're going to see as we go through our demo and as we go through setting things up, there's going to be many different ways to add numbers to the block list just because obviously we want to reduce the amount of spam calls we get. But more to show on that as we go through the demo. Um, this next slide just kind of talks about the other ways. And again, I'm going to show where each one of these are as we go through setup and testing a call, but it's just kind of reiterating that there are multiple ways to add numbers to the block list. The voice calls the call queue, as I mentioned, that is a newer feature that is more for like a on hold room. So if you are a company that gets, hundreds of calls a day, instead of customers just kind of getting through and then leaving a voicemail, they can really just sit in this waiting room, and whenever one of our CSRs gets off the call with another customer, they can just grab somebody that is waiting in the waiting room. So a couple of things to call out in here. For with the call queue, you can place calls on hold, put them in the queue, and manage multiple calls at once. Also being able to configure ring groups. We are going to talk about those ring groups, setting those up. So if you do have kind of like office staff that we want the call to go to first before we start forwarding it out to specific employees, we can always make that happen. You're going to see is that we can transfer the calls. It might be pretty quick. I'm going to be honest when I do the demo, just because I have one earpiece and to talk to you all and be on the phone while receiving a call, it gets a lot in my ear. So I will do my best to kind of point that out. I think I did see that there's a picture that's going to point this out as we get a little further in the slide deck. Agent availability with the voice system. There is the dial pad where our agents can mark themselves as available and make themselves not available, and placing calls on hold, which again, I'll show this if I'm not able to. There is a picture for it, but it's a great way so that we can put people in hold and go ahead and grab other calls from the call queue that might be more important. So with the agent status, this is just looking at the dial pad. There are really only three options that we have here is unavailable, available, and on a call. So when we do have the dial pad open and we are using it on the computer, we would want to set ourselves to available so we can take calls as well as receive those calls. Marking ourselves as unavailable, that just means that we won't be able to receive any calls. And there is the option, or there is the setting for on a call, which just happens automatically whenever we are actually answering a call or dialing a call. So yeah, here's the picture to kind of show what it is. So when a call is being made and we're looking at the dial pad, there is the option right here to always pause a call. So if we need to pause it and maybe talk to somebody else, or maybe, we've got a lot going on and we're trying to get to a more quiet area, we can always pause a call for any reason. There is the ability to add a call. This picture might be a little old, so it's kind of changed in terms of words of like adding a call. It also may say transfer. It's basically the same idea. It's being able to find somebody else and bring them into the call or pass it off to them. There is an option for muting, so if we do need to mute it for just a moment, again, whatever that instance may be, if we are recording the call, we are going to see that the record button will already be lit so that we can go ahead and record our call. We can always push the button if we want to stop recording for any reason. And then lastly, the most obvious is being able to stop a call. Um, Also, just kind of showing the process here of adding a call is really kind of the same thing as transferring a call. So when we hit that button, our little menu is going to open up here with everybody that is in our voice system so that we can decide which one of these people is going to be receiving or getting transferred this call. So improvements with the pricing as well. So as I mentioned, we would talk a little bit about the pricing. So here are the three tiers to the VoIP system. So for the basic package, that is $49 a month at for 500 minutes with 6 cents for any overage minutes. With that, you get one business line and two additional lines. The advanced package, that is 149 a month for 2,500 minutes with 6 cents for the overage minutes, and you get 10 additional lines plus your primary line. The premium is going to be 299 for 7,500 minutes with 4 cents to the overages, and you get 30 lines plus your main business line. So that's all the pricing packages there. It is pointing out that not all of them include the call queuing. I do know for a fact that it's the premium package that gets you that call queuing, essentially that waiting room that I've been talking about. So voice on mobile, no matter where, whether in the office or in the field, you can be connected by answering calls or making calls through the mobile app. And so that's just basically kind of the voice on mobile, able to stay connected and deliver exceptional service every time, and ensures that professional presence, allowing business name to appear on customers' caller IDs regardless of the caller. That's part of the masking feature that I'll go over as I go ahead and demo how to set everything up. So just kind of having a quick look at what it looks like on the mobile app. It's very similar to any active call that you would get on your phone, whether that's Android or iPhone. You are able to take a look at the call log so you can see any calls that have been made, any calls that have been received, missed. voicemails, whatever that may be able to make and receive your calls, as I mentioned, just like we would with any other phone system. Functionality from the call screen, being able to mute the calls, start and stop the recording, switch from phone speaker or Bluetooth. So very similar to what we were looking at on the desktop dial pad. As we can see, all those options are right here on the mobile app. And the ability to transfer to another user. So if we do need to, we can always pull up somebody else and transfer that call to someone else. So let's go into demoing a little bit before Q&A. So I do have our uh, demo account here. And so first thing I want to lead us to is just talking about the setup of the voice system. So we're going to go to our settings and we're going to go over here to communications. And so the first thing I want to start with is the phone numbers here. So when people are typically going through the VoIP system, you do have the one of two options. One is that you can get a number from us and you can use that as your primary business number. So mostly for a lot of people I meet that are new companies, companies that are just getting up and going, or maybe there's a change in ownership. We're just trying to essentially restart our business or start our business from the ground up. So you can get a business number from us. It's very similar to how we pick our text messaging numbers. We just go ahead and put in our information to verify we're a legit business. And then you can go ahead and put in an area code, and we'll give you a couple of numbers with that area code that we have available for you to use. Now, for a lot of people, a lot of other people, they'll want to port their numbers. Maybe you've been in business for 25 years and you've been using the same phone number. It's on all of your trucks, it's on all of your social media and marketing. So we want to use that number. So if you do, you can port those numbers. We just come over here to the port numbers button, and when you click on it, this is going to explain the entire porting process. Now, I will explain that in a sh and make it a little bit shorter. But really, what the point is saying here is what we need to start the porting process is two bits of information. One is the letter of authorization, which is right here. You can always click on that to download it. And once you fill it out, you'll just go ahead and upload it right here. The other piece of information that we need is just a copy of the last phone bill of the number or numbers that you are trying to port over. Those are the two pieces that we do need that can go ahead and get this started. There is the option for this third document, which is a customer service record. It is optional. Personally, I have yet to see a customer service record report or bill or whatever this is. I haven't really seen any pros bring it up, but there is a little I button here that explains what it is, and if you do have one, you can upload it to this section right here. That will help you help the process be shortened because it's an extra piece of detail that we have. Now, to kind of paraphrase what everything says up here is after you submit the documents, the porting process can take anywhere between 1 to 3 weeks. Just depends on what carrier you're using for your phone service. Now, as we get closer to the date of actually transferring the lines, you do receive an email from us giving you a time and a date of when our engineer is available and they're going to be ready to actually transfer your lines. So the reason that we make everybody get a number from us kind of when you're starting out is one, not only to be the placeholder while we're waiting for all of your numbers to get transferred over, but it's also that when there is that downtime of when your numbers are actually getting transferred into house call, you do have a backup number that you can have customers call. So during that downtime, I typically have seen that it doesn't take longer than a couple of hours, depending on how many numbers you're porting over. But again, you do receive an email letting you know how long that process is going to take. So that's kind of everything that goes into porting. So I'm going to step back over to numbers and just kind of show what else is here is that with some of those plans, as I mentioned, you can have 2 extra lines, you can have 10 extra lines, you can have 30 extra lines. Now, all of those are typically used for your different lead sources. So you can continue to add as many numbers as your plan has um, and create those as specific lead sources in this section. So let's scoot over to the voice section. And this is where we'll start to do our call flows and actually more of the setup. So first one I'm going to use is just kind of this basic call flow right here, but we can always create one from scratch. I'm just going to edit this one and we'll go through it together. So at the very top up here, the first step within our call flow, call tree, whatever you want to call it, is there's the incoming call. And in here, we just want to go ahead and say which one of these numbers, when people call it, are going to go through this workflow. So we have our primary number and we have two or three other lead sources so that when they are dialed, they're going to go through this call flow. So that's what we want. The next step on there is going to be our call hours. So clicking on that, that gives us the option of do we want our calls ringing 24 hours a day, 7 days a week? That's totally fine. We can also base it off of our business hours. So when everybody sets up their account and their business hours, in this case, this one is 7 to 8. So we can have our hours be based off of that. Or we can customize what the hours are going to look like if we want to do a complete customization of our phones ringing from, say, like 7 to 4:30. And then after 4:30, all of those calls are going to go to our after hours reception team, or maybe they go directly to a specific employee. So I'm just going to quickly show using the business hours from the company profile what's going to happen when we say that. So once we do, notice now it splits into two. So now we have essentially two different call flows, one for when we are working during our regular working hours and one during our closed hours. So the next thing that we can do once we decide what our hours are going to be, we can add a step. Now, here are the steps that are available. I'm just going to go through each one. The first one is play a greeting, which is pretty straightforward. We can click on it, but it gives us the option to upload an audio file. So if you want to record yourself saying, thank you for calling Phil's Big Company, please wait on the line until somebody is available, you can always do that. However, I'm going to quickly point out is with all of the audio files that I'm going to be talking about that you can upload to our VoIP system, they have to be MP3 files. So what I always tell my pros when it comes to that is when you typically record on your phone, it may not be an MP3 file. So I always say is you can go to Google and just type convert to MP3 free online. There's tons of websites that do this for free. I use this to try and get some of my music sometimes, so I know it works and I know it's free, so I can vouch for it. But it's very easy to do. You just find the right site that you want to use. Um, Another step that we can do. Oh, the other thing I was going to mention is that there is the text to speech, so that you can instead of recording yourself, you can type something specific out, and then the automated voice will read that back. The next step is forwarding a call to somebody. So if we want to forward it to an employee, if they are in the system, because when we set up our employees, you do have the ability to put in their mobile cell phone number. So if you do, we can just forward a call specifically to somebody from that list. There is also the option to forward it to an external number. So for anybody that is using House Call Pro Assist, or if you are using your own reception service, this is a step that you're going to want to have so that as the call goes through our House Call Pro system, if nobody is able to answer that call, our last step is then we can forward it out to an external number to those reception teams that we have. The only thing that I want to mention on that is there is this yellow box here, and basically what it is saying is that if we are sending a call to a number that is not in our House Call Pro system, and that customer ends up leaving a voicemail, it's going to leave that voicemail at that number's location, not in our House Call Pro system, because essentially we told the system that we are sending this call out of the system. Now, the next one that's going to be in there is going to be the call menu. And what that allows you to do is it allows you to set up for if you want to have like press one for sales, press two for Chris, press three for Phil. This is how you set that up. It's called our call menu. And as you can see, it branches off into all the different numbers, and you just continue to build your flows off of these numbers. The next option that's going to be in there is simultaneous ring. And what that does is you have three options. One is all available web phones. And what that does is basically anybody that is sitting at a computer and has the dial pad open will be able to, and a call comes in. Anybody that is sitting there at the computer with the dial pad open, it's going to ring on their computer. And that way, the first person to answer that call is going to be the person who takes that call. We can also similarly, through simultaneous ring, forward it to a specific employee. The difference is, though, is that we can send it to their web phone, which would be their computer, or we can send it to their mobile app, which would be their computer, or I'm sorry, which would be their phone. Um, the other option in there is the ring group, and we're going to talk about ring groups in a sec, but that's where we can say maybe you want to send it to my phone and my computer. And so we can say, that's one ring group for Phil because we want to send it to his phone and his computer at the same time. Other option in there is the call queue. So as I mentioned, this is basically our waiting room. We do have some kick-in music right here, but if you want to use your own, there is the audio file right there. Um, and the other thing that we can do in this area is that we can set up if we want our customers to leave a voicemail instead of just sitting on hold. Now, as you probably saw, there's a bunch of spots to put in how long that they're going to be waiting and the phone's going to be ringing before it hits the next step. So same idea here is if we want to have them wait on hold for 60 seconds before they are given the option of, would you like to leave a voicemail instead of waiting on hold? Otherwise, stay on the line. Someone will be with you shortly. And then the last step is going to be send a voicemail, which is pretty straightforward. Same idea as the greeting. We can either upload our own audio file or we can go ahead and type something out. And again, the automated voice will just read that back to our customer. So what I'm going to do, just so we can see a little bit of a demo, is we'll go ahead and we're just going to set up the simultaneous ring to all available web phones. And just in case, I know that this is a little bit later, but just in case, I'm going to do it. Send it to all available web phones and send a voicemail. All right. So now that I have my settings the way I want, I'm going to go ahead and update the call flow. And as we scroll down, we see that there's a spot for us to create our ring groups. So for the ring groups, as everybody in your company starts to log into the mobile app and starts to log into the computer, we will see one of these boxes appear with their name, and we'll be able to see that they logged in with their mobile app and they've logged in with their web phone. So if I want to create a ring group, as I mentioned earlier, I can say, all right, I want Amanda here to receive calls on her mobile device and her web phone, and I want Brenda here to do the same. I'm going to make them my CSR group. And so now with that, as I mentioned, if we go back to our call flows and I go to my ring groups for that simultaneous ring, I can now have that call go to those two people on both of their devices. So going a little bit past the ring group, the next thing in there is going to be the audio library, which is where you can store all of your MP3s for your recordings and for your hold music, your voicemails. I know that some people have a different greeting for holidays versus their normal days. So this is where you can store all of those and then switch them out when you need to switch them out. Underneath that, there's a spot for call reasons. Now, we're going to see the call reasons in a real example in just a moment, but anytime we answer a call, we can always mark what type of reason that this call was so that we can pull reports to see what is the reasons of these calls over a period of time, and also just for data for us in our reporting, which again, we'll see in real person in just a moment. Some new improvements is we also have these missed call automations. So if we miss a call during business hours, we can then have a text message be sent out to that customer. So, thank you for reaching out to us. Sorry we couldn't get to your call, but if you want to book online, here's the link to our booking schedule, something like that. So there's another one in there that allows you to set up a little bit more automation, but it's the same idea. And then underneath that, we have our call masking and our call recording. Call masking, as I mentioned earlier, if it is turned on, that means when any of our employees call out to customers from either our computer or from our web phone, or I'm sorry, from our cell phone, it's going to show the customer our business line instead of our personal cell phone number. The other thing is for the call recordings. So really simply, it's just a switch to turn on or off. If you do turn it on, there is this play call recording notice. If you leave that on, it's just an automated voice that says this call is being recorded. You can always turn this off. If you do, this window will pop up because it's basically saying that you are acknowledging that you're not going to have anything that says the call is being recorded. I do know that there's different places in the states where you do not need to be mentioned that the call is being recorded, but there are places in the states where it does need to be mentioned. So that's kind of the legalese that's right here. So if you do want to turn them off, you can, and it's up to you to just kind of follow the rules within your state, city, and county. So that is everything that's kind of in terms of setup. I do kind of want to take a look and see if there were any questions in terms of setup first before we go and test a call. Um, let's see here. I don't really see what happened to the transcription. Can you address that later? I think, is that for our meeting? Because as far as I know, we don't have transcribes for the voice system yet. Okay, I'm gonna keep moving because I know that we don't have transcribing for the VoIP yet. It's something that's in the works. All right. Okay, I don't see any. The assigned numbers. It does not display the company name on the caller ID. I learned the hard way. Okay. Ginger, you might want to reach out to technical support, or maybe you already have. I'm not sure how much you've already done of this. I do know that with the caller ID, sometimes it can be a little finicky. But I have like there's like a whole thing of being able to check with all of the different carriers and providers to make sure that your caller ID does show up the right way. So maybe I can send that over to Chris and he can forward that over to you, if you haven't done any of those steps already. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and kind of go through testing a call here. So right up here, there's a little phone icon. When we click on it, it's going to open up our dial pad here. Now, I do want to be very clear is if anybody is at a computer, you do need to have the dial pad open in order to receive a call. So I typically advise people is if you have two screens, you can always move it over to another screen and leave it alone. Also, I am well aware that, some people get busy and it might, disappear to behind all of your other windows and tabs. So what I always tell everybody is if it's hidden, you can honestly just hit that phone button again and it will bring the window back up to the front. So now we're going to slide up here, and this is where we're going to go ahead and set ourselves to available. So now I'm available to take any calls. Just kind of pointing out a couple of things that are down below. We can take a look at the call log from here. We also do have the call queue, so if there are any calls in the queue, we can grab a call from there, and we can listen to any of the voicemails that have been left behind. Of course, there's the dial pad buttons right there, so if we want to call out, we can always do so as well. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and give this a call. Okay, so we can all see that the call is coming in. Just kind of showing here. There's the buttons, but now I'm going to hang up because I'm hearing myself three times in my ear. But when a call does come in, what that's going to do is it pulled up over here my intake form. So I have gone over this intake form before on a couple of different sessions, so I'm not going to go through everything that's on here. But again, just want to point out is that when I called, it did save my number here. If I am in the system, which it does have me calling in from before, so it would pull up my information. I didn't totally put myself in, so my name didn't pop up and my address didn't pop up. But if that information was in there, it would show up. And on here, this is where we can start to get our information for the request description, for our request guide, and we can start putting in line items and building out our estimate or our work order if depending on what your workflow is. Now, when we have it filled out and we come up to save as, we do have the ability, just like the normal intake form, to start up a job, an estimate, or a lead. There is also a place for call notes, which is, as I mentioned earlier, that is where we can go ahead and put in all of those different call reasons. So was it a vendor call? Was it a complaint? Was it a wrong number? Any of those particular items. We can also mark it if it's a spam call, so that way we can send it to the block list and we can leave behind any notes. All right. So, once a call has been saved into the system, we can come up here to the inbox, and that is where we can find our call log. And in the call log, that is where we'll be able to see all of the calls that have come in. We can look at all of the calls, we can look at any of the missed calls, we can look at the inbounds, the outbounds, and listen to any voicemails. As we look at the call log, kind of from just looking at it right here, we can see from a high view who called, what number they called, what would that reason for the call was. If there was an estimate or a job or a lead created, there would be a link that goes directly to that job, that estimate, or that lead. We can also see who answered the call, how long that call was, call that customer back, or listen to the call if we have the recording. Notice each call goes blue, so when we click on it, it will allow us to get some more information about that call and make any adjustments to the caller, the call reason, view and edit any of the notes, listen to that call, or block the number as well. So then the last thing to kind of show here is the reporting that comes along with it. So when we go to our reporting with the voice system, now we have voice reports. So when we click on that, we can look at our call conversions. So we can look at those either by date. We can look to see which calls have come in based on the lead source number that they're calling, the call reasons that we leave behind when we leave those notes, and we can pull a report to see which employees are making the most calls or receiving the most calls, and are any of those calls becoming jobs and estimates or not. But with that, all in all, that is setting up the phone system, going through what it looks like when taking a call, and seeing what it looks like on the back end for when we're looking at the intake form, looking at our call log, and looking at our reporting. So would like to open the floor to any questions before I go into some of the questions that we have pre-prepared. I don't see here any in the Zoom. Chris, any on Facebook before I go into what we have?
No, we've got a quiet audience today.
All right. Well, then I must be doing my job pretty well here. So then let's go ahead and take a look at some of the ones that we had pre-prepared. Uh, okay. So for the first question, why does it say get set up with voice on mobile when I'm already set up with voice? Larry, my assumption is just that there's no extra fee or anything to getting it on your mobile device. It's probably just trying to set you up so that you can take calls on your mobile device, honestly. So either you can go through that process if you see it sitting there telling you to set it up or not. It's entirely up to you. Um, Sam, can someone explain house call voice to me like I'm a toddler? I hope that's kind of what I did today. I took it kind of slow, but if you do have any additional questions, certainly feel free to reach out to us. Seth, is there a way to add extensions to HCP Voice? So with that, that would be the shoot, why can't I think of the name of it right now? But the answer is yes. It's the call menu. Call menu is what you want to use for extensions. I know it's not necessarily the exact same thing as punching in a couple of numbers to directly send it to somebody, but as I did mention, that's where it will audibly say press 1 for Chris, press 2 for Phil, press 3 for sales, press 4 for accounting. So that would be the extension feature within our voice system. All right, from Gunner, using the HCP Voice for 4 employees, if you answer the phone in the field on the app, is there a way to transfer to one employee to the next? If I answer and say put them on hold and then transfer them to someone else, is that possible? Can it be possible at some point? Um, yes, I did mention it. I don't necessarily have a good way of showing it because again, I don't have it on my account. Um, Let me see if there's anything that I have in my resources that I can pull up really quick. I'm not seeing anything too quickly, but I do know that you can. We showed it on our slide deck earlier. Let's see if maybe that picture has something on it. Transfer. No, that picture doesn't show it very well either. Um, I know it does. If anything, I can send some information over to Chris to forward that over to you. But I know that we can. So I'm going to move to the next one. Ryan, is there any plan to edit these items soon? We are looking to switch to a fuller CRM like HubSpot pretty soon, but it's getting tough and sending text messages to different voice numbers. So I don't really see the question in here, Ryan. Um, I mean, we're always open to improvements as long as you all keep giving us feedback. So I would say that in terms of receiving and sending text messages to different voice numbers in House Call Pro, in-house Call Pro, we typically set you up with one text messaging number. The benefit to the voice system is actually you can unify your business line with your text messaging line, so those are the same numbers. So if a customer decides to call it, it's going to go through the voice system. If they want to just shoot you a text, it's going to go to your inbox just like your normal text messages. Another question from Gunnar. We are currently using voice. Is there a good desktop physical phone that would go with or somehow integrate with voice? I'm not a big fan of just having the web dialer for short of just buying a cell phone to leave it in the office. Not sure. Okay. So yeah, it's kind of up to you. I've talked to people about this because ideally what you're doing is you're putting your phone system into a computer and removing the desktop phones. I always say that you technically could use a desktop phone if you do have a desktop phone that has its own number. Where I showed you where to transfer that number to an external line, that's typically how I see people do that. Um, that's really kind of the only way. Otherwise, I always tell people it's kind of on the computer, so it's just kind of best to either use like an earbud, use a headset, um, or as you set up, you can just kind of set people up with a mobile device and just leave that just sitting around. James, House Call wants me to set up a texting number, but I already have a number for that. Is there something that could be integrated? So as I mentioned, you can have your main business line be your texting line. However, we cannot port a texting line. So if you do have a specific line that you do texting currently, we cannot import that to be your texting line in House Call Pro unless that's going to be your main business line for voice. James, is there a way to make the Twilio number show up with my business name when sending? We're okay. So for that, you probably just want to reach out to technical support because you probably missed the step to set up the caller ID before you went ahead and set up your voice system. We can certainly help with that. Just need to reach out to technical support and we can help. I see one question came in from Wayne. Can you see voice and chat at the same time? Or are they on separate screens? You can see them together. If you're talking about chat, I'm assuming it's the text messaging. So you can always have your inbox open and have your dial pad open so you can take a call while going through your text messages. That is doable. But that's all the questions we had that were prepared. So I'll give you all a couple of minutes here to go ahead and ask any other questions. Otherwise, I'll hand it over to Chris for talk about what's coming up next.
Yeah, thanks, Phil. Thanks for taking us through that. Y'all, if there are any last minute questions, now's the time. We'll have the recording available to this sent out to you via email, or you can find it in the Help Center late tomorrow or early next week. Next week, we are going to have a quick shift. Actually, we're going to be talking about cybersecurity next week. They're just how you can better secure your accounts and be safe. We've had a couple of malicious emails go out, people trying to mock House Call Pro and mock a login, and so just want to give you some safety tips on and some best practices when you get some emails that are like that. So we're going to do that next week. Our security guy is going to be here, and then 2 weeks from now we'll be talking about some of the updates that are coming or that have just released. I know Klarna just came out. There's been a lot of questions about that. We'll probably tackle that in a couple of weeks, talk about it a little bit, how you can turn that on, how you can get set up. And I got to see what else I missed from our updates meeting. So that's what's coming down the pipeline. Otherwise, I hope if you're interested, you'll join us for office hours tomorrow. It's every Friday. It's at 11 Pacific, 2 Eastern. It's an hour. You can come on. You can ask pros questions. You can ask Lauren, Jean, and I questions about House Call Pro. It's a totally open floor, and sometimes we get a little bit of feedback too. So if you're interested in improving the product, we have product managers stopping by to ask some questions. So if you're interested, I can get you the link for that. I think that's gonna do it. Bill, thanks again, and we'll catch up with you in a couple weeks.
All right, sounds good. Later, y'all.
Thanks.